I used to believe that if you did everything right, went to college, worked hard, married your best friend, bought a house in a decent suburb, contributed to your 401k, showed up to family holidays with a smile, life would eventually reward you with stability. Not happiness every day, not fireworks, but something solid, something safe. I was wrong. I'm a 38-year-old man, married for 11 years, together for almost 15. We lived in a quiet New Jersey suburb where the lawns were trimmed like a competition and everyone waved but never really talked. We had 2 kids, a 9-year-old daughter who still believed adults knew what they were doing, and a 6-year-old son who thought I was the strongest man in the world because I could lift him onto my shoulders without effort. I worked in corporate finance for a mid-sized logistics company. Not glamorous, but stable. Long hours, good benefits, bonuses tied to performance, a decent 401k match. My wife, Emily, was a senior project manager at a healthcare consulting firm. She was smart, organized, admired. The kind of woman people trusted immediately. PTA meetings, volunteer drives, color-coded calendars on the fridge. From the outside, we were the American dream. 2-car garage, Christmas lights in December, Thanksgiving dinners where Emily insisted on making everything from scratch, even when I told her nobody would care if the stuffing came from a box. I adored her. That's the part that makes this harder to write. I didn't just love her. I trusted her completely. I would have sworn under oath that she would never hurt me like this. The first crack wasn't dramatic. It never is. It was a feeling, a subtle shift, like realizing the floor beneath you isn't quite level anymore. Emily started guarding her phone. She'd always been casual about it. Left it on the kitchen counter, handed it to the kids to play games, asked me to read a text while she was driving. Then, sometime last fall, the phone became an extension of her body. Face down, always locked. If I walked into a room while she was texting, she'd angle the screen away or suddenly become very interested in the ceiling. I told myself I was imagining it. Then there were the late meetings, project deadlines, client calls that couldn't wait. She started traveling more. Quick overnight trips to Boston, Chicago, once even Seattle. I was proud of her. Told coworkers my wife was killing it at work. I handled bedtime routines, packed lunches, kissed scraped knees. I ignored the way she smelled different when she came home. Not perfume, something subtler, like hotel soap and a cologne I didn't recognize. The transactions were what finally pierced my denial. I manage our finances, always have. One Sunday morning, while Emily was at a yoga retreat, and the kids were watching cartoons, I sat at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee and opened our joint credit card statement. There were charges I didn't recognize. A boutique hotel in Manhattan. Expensive dinners for 2 at places I'd never been to with her. Uber rides at odd hours, all within the city, clustered around the same zip code. And then there was a charge for a piece of jewelry. Not outrageously expensive, but definitely not something she'd buy without mentioning it. My first thought was fraud. My second thought made my stomach drop. I remember staring at the screen, my coffee going cold, the hum of the refrigerator suddenly deafening. I told myself there had to be an explanation. A surprise gift, work expenses reimbursed later, anything. That night, after the kids were asleep, I asked her casually about the Manhattan charges. She didn't even hesitate. Oh, those? Work stuff. Client dinners. The hotel was for a conference. I told you about that. She smiled. The same smile she'd always had. Warm, easy. I nodded, said okay, and then I lay awake until 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. The real discovery happened 2 weeks later. It was a Tuesday, cold, the kind of gray November day where the sky looks permanently disappointed. Emily had left early for work, kissed me quickly, said she might be late. I realized around noon that she'd forgotten her iPad. She used it constantly for work, and I knew she'd be upset. I texted her, No response. Called. Straight to voicemail. So I opened the iPad to check her calendar and see where she was. It wasn't locked. Her messages synced automatically. I didn't mean to snoop. I truly didn't. But the notifications were right there. A name I didn't recognize. Mark R. The preview alone was enough to make my hands shake. I can still feel you on me. I don't remember sitting down, but suddenly I was on the floor, my back against the kitchen cabinet, the iPad heavy in my hands like it weighed 100 pounds. I opened the thread. There were months of messages. Explicit, intimate, jokes, complaints about work, complaints about me, photos. I won't describe them. I can't. Even now, my throat tightens thinking about it. But I recognized our bedroom, our sheets, the lamp on my nightstand. She'd brought him into our home. I remember one message in particular. She'd written, "I love him, but I'm not in love with him anymore. This feels real." I threw up in the sink. I didn't confront her that day. Or the next. Or the next. I moved through the house like a ghost, taking care of the kids, answering emails at work, nodding at neighbors. Inside, something had broken so completely I wasn't sure it could ever be fixed. I took screenshots, forwarded them to a new email account. I started paying attention, logging dates, times, expenses, and then, buried deep in the messages, I saw something that changed everything. Mark R. wasn't single, he was married. Update 1. I spent a full week doing nothing but thinking. At my lowest moment, sitting alone in my car in the office parking garage, I actually considered pretending I'd never seen anything. Telling myself that if I just worked harder, loved her better, she'd come back to me. That thought disgusted me. Instead, I did something I never thought I'd do. I searched for Mark R. It didn't take long. LinkedIn. Senior director at a medical supply company. Married. 2 kids. Lives in Westchester, New York. His wife's name was Laura. I stared at her Facebook profile for an hour before I worked up the courage to message her. I kept it simple. No accusations. Just the truth. "Hi Laura. I'm sorry to contact you out of the blue. I believe our spouses may be having an affair. I have evidence. I think you deserve to know." She replied 3 hours later. "Can we talk?" We met at a coffee shop halfway between our homes. Neutral ground. Late afternoon, when it was quiet. I recognized her immediately. She looked tired. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. We didn't hug. We didn't smile. We just sat across from each other. 2 strangers bound by the same betrayal. She spoke first. "I knew something was wrong," she said softly. But I didn't want to believe it. I slid my phone across the table and showed her the screenshots. She didn't cry. She just closed her eyes and let out a long, shaky breath. "I found hotel receipts," she said. "And he's been draining our savings." That was the moment our stories merged into something darker. Over the next few weeks, Laura and I compared notes, dates, transactions, lies. The affair had been going on for almost 2 years. They'd met at a conference in Chicago. It hadn't been a fling. It was a full second life. Trips disguised as work. Shared expenses hidden through joint accounts. Mark had even opened a separate credit card without Laura's knowledge. Worse than that, they'd been talking about leaving us. Not someday, soon. The anger I felt then was cold and focused. Not explosive, calculated. Laura was a lawyer, not a divorce lawyer, but close enough to know exactly what we needed to do. We hired professionals quietly, separate accounts, financial audits. We documented everything, every lie, every dollar. There was a strange comfort in having someone else who understood exactly how deep the pain went. We never crossed any inappropriate lines. This wasn't a revenge affair. It was survival. 2 broken people holding each other upright. We decided not to confront them individually. We decided to end it together. Update 2. We waited for the perfect moment. Thanksgiving. Emily insisted on hosting that year. Her parents, my parents, Mark and Laura, invited under the guise of work friends who didn't have family nearby. The house smelled like turkey and rosemary. The kids ran around laughing. The TV murmured football in the background. Emily looked radiant, happy, relaxed. I watched her laugh with Mark across the dining table, their eyes meeting just a little too long, and I felt nothing. That scared me more than the pain ever had. After dinner, when dessert was served and the wine had loosened everyone's edges, Laura stood up. "I have something I need to say," she said. The room quieted. She reached into her purse and placed a folder on the table. "I know about the affair." Emily froze. Mark's face drained of color. No one yelled. No one screamed. Laura spoke calmly, methodically, laying out dates, expenses, messages. I followed, sliding copies across the table. Emily tried to interrupt. I held up my hand. "No," I said quietly. "You've said enough." The kids were upstairs, thank God. My mother started crying. Emily's father looked like he might be sick. Mark tried to stand. Laura told him to sit down. By the end, there was nothing left to say. Emily whispered my name. I didn't look at her. "Please leave," I said. "Both of you." They did. Final update. The fallout and new beginning. The divorce was brutal, but it was clean. Emily lost her job when the affair became public within her company. Fraternization policies, misuse of funds. Mark fared no better. The house was sold, assets divided, custody arranged. 6 months later, the silence in my new apartment still felt strange. But it wasn't painful anymore. The kids were adjusting, laughing again. Laura and I still talk. Not often, but sometimes. A shared understanding. I'm not healed, not completely, but I'm learning something important. Love isn't proven by how much pain you're willing to endure. It's proven by knowing when to walk away. If you're reading this and you feel that gut instinct, the one you keep ignoring, listen to it. It might just save you.